n'ategeeza nga bw'atalina kyamanyi ku lukwe luno.
NTV akawungeza ebuziga okumpi ne Kampala wakati eri abasajja aba Nigeria babiri poliisi beekutte lwa kwefuulira mu Uganda abagezi ne batandika okusuubula enjayi. Enjayi no babadde bagiteeka mu bibbo ebiruke n'obuseke ne balyoka bakola obusuubuzi mu mawanga nga Japan ne Indonesia. Ebuziga era eriyo omuvubuka alinze okunnyonnyola ebimwogerwako nti yabba dola za Amerika eziwerako obukadde bwa siringi eza kuno 50.
Ibrahim Saiga akulira poliisi e Katwe wamu ne Francis Chemusto bakoze ekikwekweto ebuziga gye bakwatidde abasajja enzalwa y'e Nigeria nga babadde bakukusa enjaga gye babadde balukira mu bibbo nga bakozesa obuseke bwa soda.
Babiteeka mu straw, then straws ezo ne bazizinga bulungi nga abakola ekibbo nga bw'okiraba wano, ne bazizingazinga ne balukamu ekibbo. So gwe bw'obanga olaba nti kibbo kye kikola ki kye batwala, naye at the end of the day ekiri mu kibbo ekyo nga njaga.
Kazaala Bulwa yavudde ku mukyalo ono eyabadde aweereddwa ogw'okuluka ebibbo bino eyeekengedde be yabadde akola nabo era kwe kutemya ku poliisi.
Yejja emyezi 5 emabega nga twagala okumukolera ebibbo ne tumubuuza obyagala kati n'atugamba nedda. Njabano namugye mu nkere tumugamba naye nga ffe tubirukira waneene ebyaffe ne babisuula ne babitwala. Ebyaffe tubitundira mu katale nagaanira nze ebyange njagala mubirukira eri.
Omunigeria ono amanyikiddwako erya Peter Lyokka wamu ne muganda we kati aliira ku nsiko bagamba nti babadde bakola omulimu guno nga gutambula bulungi era we bagendedde okubakwata nga guno gwa kusatu ku gye babadde batwala.
Which type of drug is this one? This one is called cocaine and ice.
Where do you take it? Where do you take it after packing?
It's from the nylon, I put it there, I pack it.
And you sell it, where do you sell it?
So,
where do you sell it? Selling? Market, where is the market?
Sent out, not here.
Bazize ennyumba nga beeyambisa embwa ezikonga olusu era ne bazuula enjaga y'ekika kya cocaine. Poliisi egamba nti bakyalina okwongera okunoonyereza ku bantu bano era oluvannyuma baakugulwako omusango gw'okukukusa enjaga. Era ebuziga waliwo omuvubuka poliisi gwekutte ng'ono agambibwa okuba nti abbye ekisawo ekibaddemu ensimbi za dola ezibalibwamu obukadde obusoba mu 50 bw'ozikyusa mu za kuno. Kigambibwa nti ono abadde azimba naye bw'alabye ekisawo kino n'akinyakula olwo n'assaako kakokola tondeka nnyuma. Wabula ono embiro tezimweyimiridde ababadde okumpi bwe bamusinza emisinde era ne bamukwata.
NTV akawungezi okuvuganya kweyongedde mu by'empuliziganya kuno kwaffe kubanga woolirya bino Smart Telecom yagguse dda omukutu guno gwakuweereza ku nooti 74 oba 074 era guli wansi w'ekitongole ki Aga Khan Foundation. Kaakati obadde olowooza nti omukutu kwoli airtime ne internet bya buseere wulira bino.
Gwabadde yava ku by'okukuba essimu olw'obuseere bwa Unity nga wasigaliza gwa kulinda abakukubira nate wanditandise okujjukira engeri gye banyigamu amapeesa agakuba essimu kubanga omukutu gw'essimu omulala gwegasse kwejo egiri mu ggwanga kati. Omukutu guno guyitibwa Smart Telecom. Guno gwa ssente za nseko.
Today, nobody did it. We dare to do it. The same way we asked the East African to give us a name, we asked East African, what do you want? They said, we want to make a call without being under the pressure of a watch or a clock. There's no clock ticking. You can make a call and pay 74 shilling and stay whatever you want on your call until you finish all what you want to say.
Abdelatif Buziani onunga yakulira group ya Smart Telecom agamba nti Uganda egenda kuteekebwamu obuwumbi obusukka mu 7 era nga yegenda okuba ekyokulabiramu mu mpuliziganya y'omukutu guno mu mawanga omuli Tanzania ne Burundi gyegenda okubeera.
With the high speed, we are rolling out across the 3 markets, broadband, top class. We are going to come up with ideas like triple play, quadruple play. We're offering to people voice, data, television, and broadband at home and in the office and in the hand as well.
Okwawukanako n'ennamba endala eziri ku katale eya Smart Telecom ejja kuba 074 n'endala ezigenderako.
You know, when we get the number, when we get the people who are making us successful, that our business will be successful. It's the number. Business models are built on numbers and how much people you can attract.
Omukutu guno gwe gumu ku by'obusuubuzi ebiri wansi w'ekitongole kya Aga Khan Development Foundation. Omukutu guno gumaze emyaka 10 mu mawanga omuli Afghanistan ne Tajikistan ng'abagukozesa basuka mu bukadde 10. Florence Salimba, NTV akawungezi.
bijjidde bibeemu Aga Khan Foundation tugamba nti tubaaniriza banywanyi. Mu byemizannyo katusooke ne volleyball. Ttiimu ya Vision Volleyball Club ewangudde empaka ez'abakazi eza Jinja Open. Eno yawangudde ttiimu endala bwe babadde bavuganya eziwerako. Ate mu z'abasajja ogwa Nemo Stars ne Sport S tegwawedde oluvannyuma lw'abadifiri okuyimiriza omuzannyo ng'obudde bugenze.
Ttiimu ya Vision Volleyball Club ey'abakazi eyongedde okusajjalatira ku ttiimu za volleyball zikasangwawo nate bwe ziwanguddeko ekikopo kya Jinja Open. Vision yatandikibwawo omwaka guno nga gutandika yawandiisizza ebibinja by'abazannyi bibiri byombi ebyatuuse ku luzannyo lw'akamalirizo. Vision A yawangudde ekikopo kino yawandudde mu Sport S mu luzannyo olukulembera olw'akamalirizo, ate ginnayo Vision B newandulamu aba KBC. Aba Vision we batuukidde ku buwanguzi buno bannantamigwa ba liigi abandejje babadde Kenya gye bagenze okwetaba mu mpaka z'Odera Cup ezabadde mu bitundu by'e Malaba. Ndejje nayo teyasobodde kuwangula mpaka z'e Kenya zino zeyeetabyemu oluvannyuma lw'okuwangulwa aba KCB mu luzannyo olukulembera olw'akamalirizo. Bakirimanya abalala abateetabye mu mpaka z'abakazi Jinja be Bankumba University abasazeewo okwewummuzaamu nga beetegekera empaka za kiraabu ez'abakazi za Africa ezigenda okubeera e Tunisia omwezi ogujja. Wabula zo empaka z'abasajja tezaawedde oluvannyuma lw'obudde okukwata nga Nemo Stars ekulembedde mu Sport S n'obugoba 2-1. Aba Nemo Stars olwaleero lwe basimbula okugenda e Tunisia gye bagenda okwetaba mu mpaka za kiraabu eza Africa ez'abasajja. Empaka zino zaakugibwako akawuwo olunaku lw'enkya. Sam Mpoza, NTV akawungeezi.
Ennaku wasigadde 87 tutuuke ku mupiira mulindwa oba ekikopo mulindwa ekyensi yonna. Kijja kuba kitandika nga 12 omwezi gujja kubeera gwa mukaaga mwaka guno gwennyini. Okutandika n'olwaleero tujja kuba tukubuulira ebikwata ku nteekateeka ezigenda maaso mu Brazil. Era olwaleero katutandike n'ensengeka ya ttiimu ezigenda okwetaba mu World Cup ey'omwaka guno. Ebyemizannyo we bityo bwe bigenze. Wano e Kampala we tusinziire okuweereza bino byonna. Olwaleero akasana kaase naye tekabadde kakaalaamu. Obudde bubadde awo nga bukakamu. Batubulidde nti mu bitundu ebimu obudde bubadde bwakyenyeka ggobe kumpi olunaku lwonna ate waliwo awatonotono awalabiseeyo ku
NTV, turning on your world. NTV, turning on your world. Today's highlight with
New geisha with extracts from Mother Nature.
You will move your vehicles 100 feet from the wire.
This is an illegal barrier.
We cannot guarantee your safety unless you move back 100 feet from the wire.
Roll forward, Ross. 10 feet.
My mom always wants what's best for us. That's why she uses new geisha with extracts from nature. New geisha with extracts from Mother Nature.
And the change of government won't stop a thing. I've run out of fingers counting the number of multinationals setting up here. What about the 3 companies that announced their plans to launch last week? I say they're shortly. Me, I'd be looking to sell. At what price? More. Much, much more. I don't know who you are, or how you know these things. But one thing I'm sure of, you're in the wrong job. Here, call me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to hear more from you.
Are you ready for your big break? The East African, understanding the region.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Never underestimate the power of thoughts and words. What you tell yourself every day in the morning will make sure that the path of your day is going to be awesome. Speak words like victory, happiness, awesomeness, and success, and I'll guarantee you your day will be set for something that you'll never experience before. Today, Morning at NTV will give you another chance to make sure that your Tuesday morning is going to be awesome. Simon, Joel, Mabel, Isma, and I all standing by to start this beautiful morning. Let's get ahead with the question of the day. Good morning. At exactly a minute after 7, help us answer that question. And you can use the following platforms. One, Facebook, Morning at NTV. You can head over to Twitter at Morning at NTV. And of course, feel free to tag us at MBGoal2, at Kasiati, at Joel Senyoni, and at Mebkeb. And also the SMS platform is available for you, 6565. What a beautiful sunrise over the Kampala Serena Hotel. Look at that. Beautiful as it rises. And standing by is Mabel Kebirunji with the stories that are making headlines. When we come back, the press review with the usual suspects. Good morning.
Good morning, and I think the word I choose today is beautiful. Thank you for joining us on air and online. Welcome to Morning at NTV, the show that starts you off. Looking at some of the stories making headlines, disagreements, it seems, have become commonplace within the ruling party. Political scholars say the tensions in the NRM indicate tough times ahead for the party. And the NRM party struggles continue to raise debate.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Disagreements, it seems, have become commonplace within the ruling party. NTV has learned from sources within that the Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi was once again at loggerheads with members of the party after he asked that SEC members first meet the NRM administrators in the districts before the MPs could be sent out. This was during a heated caucus meeting at State House yesterday.
This evening, more drama ensued at State House in Entebbe as the NRM caucus met for the fourth time in less than 3 weeks. NRM caucus Vice Chair David Bahati chaired the meeting this time round. Now, NTV understands that as the meeting reached its tail end, the Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi suggested a change in the date the MPs to go to their constituencies. The Premier also suggested that the Central Executive Committee, SEC, first meets the NRM administrators. This didn't go well with some of the legislators and ministers in attendance during the caucus meeting. NTV learned that Jim Mwezi, who represents the historicals in SEC, vehemently opposed the Premier's position. Mwezi went as far as saying that Mbabazi was misrepresenting SEC position. The argument from those who bitterly opposed Mbabazi's suggestion was that letting SEC meet the NRM administrators in their constituencies would neutralize their minds. Other prominent people who openly opposed the Prime Minister included ministers like Mwesiga Rukutana as well as Dokolo MP Okotogong. Okotogong argued that the last time he wanted to stand as president, he was instructed by SEC to stand down. The meeting then ended prematurely. President Yoweri Museveni apparently couldn't intervene because he was on his way to South Africa for opening of the African Parliament. This now means that the lawmakers shall meet again on the 21st of this month, though we understand that SEC had in fact proposed for the 30th. Most of the lawmakers that NTV sounded out say that they still think Mbabazi harbours thoughts of standing in 2016. This also comes at a time when Mbabazi's powers were trimmed over as Secretary General. Maurice Ochol, NTV.
Political scholars from Makerere University say that tensions in the NRM party that recently played out between the president and the prime minister are an indication of tough times ahead for the party. Solomon Seranja sounded out some of the scholars and now reports.
The NRM party has lately been embroiled in a political tug-of-war that pitted supporters of President Yoweri Museveni against those of Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi. The fault lines were brought to the limelight during last month's Chankwanzi retreat, and the party is still reeling from the effects of the division. The man in the eye of the storm, Amama Mbabazi, who is also the Secretary General of the party, was accused of secretly mobilizing support to hold the NRM flag in the 2016 general election. Although Mbabazi denied the accusations, he was crucified by his own colleagues at different party meetings. The president is also reported to have produced audio recordings as proof of Mbabazi's alleged scheme against his office. But as the party continues condemning the man who just a few years ago was the president's blue-eyed boy, political observers are raising questions about whether it would get the party back on course or cause it to further disintegrate. Makerere University political scholar Professor Sabit Makara says that the wrangles in NRM portend doom for the party.
It has divided the electorate, that it has shown that NRM is not one coherent party. It is a party of divided individuals, all of whom are really seeking power rather than working for the general good of others. So I think that ideally, if Mbabazi had the ambitions, those ambitions should have been checked out in the appropriate organs of the NRM, such as the NEC or the SEC.
He also adds that the manner in which the party dealt with the Secretary General may further weaken its support base.
You know, ministers now, I don't know how they feel about their prime minister. If they can scandalize him in Chankwanza and address him there, I don't know whether they take commands from him now. I don't know what is happening. The Secretary General, I don't know whether he now gives directives to party branches and the district branches. It is very difficult. I think he's in a very awkward position.
But political analyst and Makerere University history Don Debesa Mwambutsia described the tension in the NRM as healthy for the party.
It has exposed the controlist nature of NRM, and by people building on that one, we can now discuss. I think let's take advantage to discuss the succession question, because it was a no-go area.
Ndebesa, however, says Mbabazi does not have to clout to cause a significant upset in the party whose foundation is built on the president's personality.
What Museveni needs to win elections or support in Uganda of whatever nature is support within the security sector, as well as financial access to financial resources of the state. The other issues are important, but they are secondary. So Mbabazi and the so-called saga within the NRM is not primary.
There is no doubt that Mbabazi has been instrumental in the NRM party's growth. But the young party members who have been baying for his blood have left his relevance as the party Secretary General in question.
Some people are really running away from him so that the powers that be do not associate them with Mbabazi. It is like now if you associate with Mbabazi, you are somehow not a pure NRM.
Solomon Serwanja, NTV.
The NRM party's struggles continue to raise debate. The discussion now centers on whether the infighting within the ruling party will create room for the opposition to shape up and make ready for 2016. Suhail Mugabe spent the day with members of opposition.
The squabbles in the ruling NRM party had been simmering for long, but eventually came to a fall a few weeks ago. Weaknesses were exposed and a party that seemed to have it all together was all of a sudden showing huge cracks. The Prime Minister and NRM Secretary General Amama Mbabazi was accused of using his office to mobilize against President Museveni. Audio recordings and transcripts were presented by the President to the NRM Parliamentary Caucus as proof. The impression that the opposition would use the current unrest within the party to their advantage has been shared, but Justice Forum President Asman Basalirwa says the conflict within NRM is not anything new.
They had conflicts in the bush, they had conflicts even before they became a political party. They are now having conflicts, and we have seen senior figures of NRM, disagreeing with the party and leaving.
There is also the thought that the developments in the NRM could spill over and wreak havoc for the whole country.
The division is not only between Museveni and Mbabazi. The division is in the entire cabinet, it is in the parliament here, it is in the army, it is in the police.
The consequences will affect not only them, but even us in the opposition. So I don't think it should really cause excitement. I don't think we should celebrate because of what is happening.
Short of a military coup, any politics he can handle, because he has all the chips and all the aces. He has the jobs, he has the money.
Some opposition bigwigs say they will not allow events within the NRM to dictate their agenda.
We must have laws, reforms, legal reforms, electoral reforms, constitutional reforms that make us have that.
This should be an opportunity for us to rally masses to fight against impunity, which is very recurrent, which is very apparent in our country, and in my view, that should really be the way to go.
Betty Olive Kamya, the president of the Uganda Federal Alliance, says the NRM can only be defeated by stripping the president of some of the powers he has constitutionally.
If we collect 10% signatures of registered voters who support a petition to hold a referendum to amend the constitution to trim the powers of the president, that is a good start.
At the moment, there is no telling the direction the current impasse in the party will take. For now, the NRM keeps a brave face, moving on with plans to send party members of parliament to their respective constituencies to lay ground for President Museveni's candidacy ahead of the 2016 presidential polls. Sohail Mugabi, NTV.
That's all we had for you in today's morning bulletin. Time now to find out what's happening in the papers with Simon, Joel and Brian.
Good morning this Tuesday, the 18th day of March 2014. Bright sunny morning over Kampala skies with a yellow sun. And yes, we're coming to you as always from the rooftop of the Kampala Serena Hotel, where we come to you come rain, come shine. This is your edition of Morning at NTV's press review with myself, Simon Kasiate, and we call ourselves the usual suspects, Brian and Joel. Good morning, folks. Good morning. Morning. Well, with us, we have the Red Pepper and the Daily Monitor. And I'll start off with the Red Pepper this morning, which has got a huge headline: Resign or we fire you. This is in inverted commas, and perhaps this is what you should read to understand the political goings on. Now, the top NRM organ has given Mbabazi the final ultimatum. Who is Mbabazi? The Right Honorable Prime Minister and Secretary General of the National Resistance Movement. And of course, there is a kicker here that says Mbabazi's wife slams the phone into Museveni's ear. Whatever was going on in that close proximity.
Into Museveni's ear?
Yeah, into Museveni's
ear. Make sense of that.
She hangs up on the
man. Certainly, but I mean, into the ear.
Did they have to make it that? Well, and that is it for you in the Red Pepper this morning. But also the front page is talking about a sleazy story in the gossip section where we run to, let's flip from one extreme to another. We are looking at political goings on, but at the same time also looking at what happens on the social scene. Now we have a kicker here of a musician who has thumped another over sex. And let's not forget that these are two
female musicians who are allegedly to have a relationship that is sexual. So when we talk about anti-homosexuality bill, we are not talking about things in abstract senses. We have people that are known that practice this, and we're there. We have it in the red paper this morning.
There's evidence.
Well,
in the red paper,
according to what the red paper has said.
Well, in the Daily Monitor, UNEBO poses Makia pre-entry examinations, and this is in relation to the School of Law, where the School of Law is suggesting that maybe to qualify, let's sit for another exam so that we admit quality students, because most of them actually fail the bar test. So,
and this is a very hard one. It's actually
quality lawyers.
I personally think the law faculty's issues are to do with space, and that is why they're doing everything they can to try and minimize the intake. They don't have facilities, they don't have adequate space, and then they have lawyers, you know, from UCU and so on.
What does it feel like when you have students who have gone through the rounds in secondary schools, read through their higher education of, certificate of education examinations, which are extremely rigorous, all in the hope of getting to law, then they score the usual triple A or quadruple A, only for them to face a pre-entry examination and perhaps even fail it? Isn't that double jeopardy?
That's precisely the point I'm making. We need to expound on the space they are in so that we, extricate ourselves from
but before we expound on the space, we cannot let people suffer. What you do, you go ahead, let people enter the way they have always been conditioned to enter, and then you increase space. Then after that, it's no progression. Or tell people who are vying to take law that you don't need senior 6 examinations. You can stop a senior 4, go home and chill for 2 years, come back for as long as you can pass the pre-entry examinations. There you go. Because
but I'll tell you, what are they asking? There are too many. And I'll tell you, in this country, we have too many lawyers. Lawyers. This microphone here.
But demand sometimes dictates on the supply. So
there's many that are pressing out there with
brigands like you and thieves like myself and fornicators like all these people who I see in the red paper.
We've not talked about him. Where does he fall?
No, page 5 of the red paper this morning says 16 over prostitution, and the red paper has a way of putting kickers. They say deadly. Nabu criminals were terrorizing residents. Now, these are prostitutes.
Yeah, but perhaps terrorizing residents. People's wives, their marriages were in jeopardy and that kind of
thing. The red paper is that newspaper which tells you very serious news but with a smile on your face. I mean, clearly, you cannot fail to laugh when you get yourself a copy of the red paper. Even when sometimes what they write, you need to take it with tongue in cheek.
Incidentally, a couple of yesterday, I think, we're looking at how telecom companies have failed to regulate this drop call thing, and now a new player has come into, the market, and it's definitely Smart Telecom, and at 74 shillings per call.
I dare them to sustain that for over a year. When they're coming into the market, they come with all these, exciting ratings and so on, so that everybody jumps on board. But along the way, they slowly but surely begin to gel with the rest of everybody. So
let's say let's look at where this Smart Telecom is coming from. It's part of the huge and heavily capitalized Aga Khan Development Foundation, and clearly their pockets are deep, and I'm sure the three of us are testimony to that. This location where we are testimony to that. So clearly, we've seen that the Aga Khan Development Network doesn't start up fallacious projects. When they go into media, they rock really hard. When they get into hotels, they rock really hard. Soon they will be starting up a teaching a hospital in Uganda. Now they're into telecom. Watch this space. So this is one player who I may, put a voucher on and say perhaps
the other day mean some serious business. That they are even going to, enable us be able to watch TV on our phones, and data is going to be very cheap.
The MTN CEO that was saying, you see, we don't need another player in the market. There's too many of them. And I was thinking, dude, you guys are gazumping us here every day, and you don't want more players. We want more players so that we can get a fair deal at the end of the day.
While talking about telcos, I'm sure the Uganda Consumer Protection Association, yes, I do not know of such an association, but I would be glad to belong to it, has declared that telecom companies in Uganda cheat their citizens of 1 trillion Ugandan shillings. This is in the red paper this morning. It's a story to follow. Can you imagine? All of us.
Every month, about 300 million shillings per day. That's what
1 trillion shillings per month.
1.3 trillion per year.
Per year, I think.
Well, that's a lot of money.
It is, certainly is. In any language, it is a lot of money. There's a pictographic expression here of what Kampala City, I'm told, is going to be like. I don't know if that picture is running on your screen here in the Daily Monitor. Looks awesome. I hope we can pull this off. We are very good on paper. We have so many plans. National Planning Authority, exquisite plans, but as soon as night follows date, Vision 2040 is another. What's the vision of this country?
this is a
beautiful, close your eyes and imagine. That's what visions are all about. But well, that is an interesting picture showing an artistic impression of the Ginger Road junction, which will have flyovers. And yes, this has been playing out for many years. Now, we'll put them to task. You have shown us the photographic impression. Let us wait for when we will see the actual impression on the ground. How long will it take and how much shall it cost us? Because there's one thing having wonderful plans and of course paying an arm and leg to have them actualized. And that's the problem of Uganda's infrastructure development, that you've got wonderful, planning, but it comes in a little bit too little, too late. I mean, when I look at the photographic impression, I'm looking at 7 cars on this huge boulevard and flyover. I don't think the planners had an idea of the kind of traffic they are looking at. If you took a sneak peek at the Ginger Road roundabout right about now, you have no idea what will
It's about 7:20.
Well,
I mean, Agent from CC has showed that things can be done.
But it's also
albeit with lots of chaos in the city. I mean, when you look at what's happening, the politics, the Lord Mayor is being impeached and so on. Sometimes you're thinking, okay, maybe certain things shouldn't be done in a certain way. But let's give her a chance. I think she's proved that she can do some work, and wait and see how this pans out.
Right. Of course, after the bloodbath in South Sudan, over 70,000 South Sudanese are seeking asylum in Uganda, according to the office of the Prime Minister. Did we expect this? Are we now a home for lack of better word, refugees? We're kind of stuck in the middle. We have no option but to receive people.
Certainly, because at some point we could need them. I hope we never need them, but we have needed them in the past.
No, we currently need the South Sudanese. I was here with a man called Bahati. No, even before shit hits the fan in Uganda, sorry to use that kind of language, but even before things go bad in this country, we need the Southern Sudanese. We have been trading with them. We continue willing to trade with them. The other day I had a member of that conglomerate of Ugandan traders, Bahati, who was one of the people contracted by the South Sudanese government, supply them with all sorts of goods and services, which they have not paid. The South Sudanese government has gone ahead to pay Ethiopia, Kenya and other countries except Uganda. I think they are taking our hospitality for granted. Yes, no one has got a problem. No, I don't think many Ugandans have a problem with hosting refugees here. I mean, this has always been a melting pot, all sorts of characters, good and bad. But that the South Sudanese government continues to take us for granted, does not pay Ugandan people who through sweat, iron and blood go to pacify them and feed them. I think that is a travesty.
They come back looking darker than
those you South Sudanese who are watching this show from the comforts of your homes in Uganda but have links to people in South Sudan. Kindly,
you're not threatening them.
I'm not threatening them. I'm only telling them with a lot of passion, and this is sometimes how I speak. They need to understand, and this is a sentiment that can resonate across the country. If you ask any Ugandan about our relations with South Sudan, they say we are okay with those guys for as long as they tend to play ball. They should honor their side of the bargain. I find it very difficult to see Ugandan traders crying and suffering losses, financial losses, as a result of supplying goods and services to these South Sudanese. And then you read a newspaper report that hundreds, perhaps thousands of them are flocking into this country and seeking refuge.
I feel you. I think it's
Let's
wrong.
not forget that there are two types of refugees of South Sudanese in Uganda. There are those in squalor in camps in northern Uganda and other places who are living in very squalid conditions because that's what they are. Then you've got all these guys living life in the capital cities. Yeah, every 10 minutes on the road you see a central equatorial number plate register coming. These are not here trading, they are here on asylum. So the question is, to what extent can their government, no matter how much they are going through at home, be able to honor their side of the bargain? I mean, you cannot afford to treat badly a neighbor who is always there for you when things get hard. I mean, like they say, condoms are always
yesterday as the angry one,
they are there for you when things get hard.
Today he's off, but yes, I think they should, and I'm told they pay lots of, as Ugandans go to buy, certain things in the shops. For them, they go and buy the whole thing. The Sudanese, I think, went to and they were asking, "What do you want to buy?" And he said, "All of this, all of this." So they've got the money, and I think they should pay Uganda.
Well, we are here talking very waxing lyrical about Kampala City authorities, the capital city authorities' tremendous plans to change the face of Kampala. Well, they have done it, and now we are seeing that they have done it and seem to be on the verge of failure. There's a story playing out on page 3 of the Daily Monitor where it is reported that city fountains are drying up as streetlights are getting to become a top wanted item by vandals. A case in point is that 700 million junction fountain leisure park, Disneyland kind of situation outside Watoto Church on Kampala Road, where it meets Bombo Road. It's a place which was, for all intents and purposes, supposed to change the face of Kampala.
And I want to blame KCCA for what's happening. I blame you and I, because we are the ones who, of course, taking responsibility for
why it was a public-private partnership. Why are you blaming KCCA?
What I'm saying, I'm not blaming KCCA for what is turning out. Yes, it is really we've got to be responsible with the property, the so-called patriotism that you're talking about. And that is what patriotism is to me. Not this nonsense of go marching around, hold slurs, learn how to shoot guns.
So
and
patriotism is vandalizing city
to protect, but also
protecting our property.
Tege's, regime as
that guy who I hear wants to come back as Lord Mayor.
Yes, he had to lock the dustbins with padlocks.
The ones that had because city manholes are gape and open simply because we are taking the hard steel covers over them.
Right.
Guys climb up street poles and steal the lights from them. But I think that human nature inherently is bad. I mean, there's no way you're.
We are all full of crap. Someone told me.
Well, you said it in a more appropriate way than I would have said it. However, it is incumbent upon authorities to take charge of the property that they have put in place. I mean, Kampala Capital City Authority cannot take away the responsibility of protecting these installations. You, Brian Morondo, whenever you wash your shirts at home, you do not hang them up in the open without taking a close look at them. You don't leave your house open. When you park your car, you don't leave it open hoping that some good Samaritans will pass by, look at the laptop in the back seat.
In some countries, it's
not open. Yeah, but we have not developed to that extent of being like that country, like Norway, where there is a huge per capita, income as compared to Uganda. So before we get there, we cannot take things on chance. So if you put up at 700 million shillings installation, spare a percentage of that.
I'm told, and
well, I see.
But you see, at the end of the day,
get a percentage of that and hire private security companies. Every Tom, Dick and Harry in this town is setting up a private security firm. That clearly tells you that there is need for security, that this place is not as safe as we thought it was. So Kampala Capital City Authority, kindly, if you put up a manhole, well, it doesn't hurt you hiring a guard to secure it, because after all, anyway, it will be stolen by we, the residents of Kampala, and those who visit this place. So clearly, there needs to be a need for.
So you send the message to KCC. I think we need to speak to Ugandans too. Let's stop this nonsense of vandalizing property that does belong to everyone.
I want to see the feature when they had just put up the bypass, and we're looking at.
That's another one that's fallen victim.
Why didn't they plan lighting on the bypass?
Now let me tell you.
Realize that people, steal them and sell them to KCCA officials.
Now let me
sell them to KCCA.
Let me tell you, as someone who worked at an organization that funded the Northern Bypass for everyone. There was money earmarked for that lighting of the bypass. I was in charge.
Meant to be not just two lanes?
No, those lanes there, the European Union owned at the side of the bargain, and there was money to put signages across, at every interval. Junctions were supposed to have all these signages, and all the things were placed there. But guess what? These cigarettes you are using at home, all these metal bars you are using to construct your buildings, many of them were stolen from the Northern Bypass, because these Ugandans just went onto the Northern Bypass, ran roughshod, stole reflectors and all that. I mean, we've seen.
So was the minister justified to say that if you're caught stealing road signage, then we shoot to kill you, because
that was in Kisoro. I mean, you see stealing road reflectors to use them as lamps in their homes. I mean, there has been all this talk that Ugandans are nice people, but let's be very honest and look them in the face. Let's not try to play political. Let them not try to play populism.
It's coming.
Ugandans are a bunch of bad people, a terribly bad breed of people, bad-mannered, ill-mannered.
You say we are.
Absolutely, and I take full responsibility. I have my share
of
badness
that's
that
not true for every Ugandan. There's good Ugandans out there trying their very best to serve this country as best as they can, and we need to say kudos to them. But for those of you that are letting us down, we need to stand up. We certainly need to, and that's a message we need to keep.
I mean, talking about badness here on page 5 of the Daily Monitor is a story of a well-to-do city businessman, Ugandan businessman taking land of a school for Ugandan children simply because it's close to his other school. I mean, clearly, how bad can we get as Uganda?
He wants to expand.
Yeah, what about those who he's denying the land, who actually owned it before? Then, of course, talking about political badness, the opposition in Kampala, in Uganda, has vowed to stop the road there.
A story is told of a guy on the NTV road who, there's a school next to his home, and every time he went back home, I felt like these kids were making a lot of noise for him. So he said, you know what, I'm going to buy this school and relocate you guys. Then I'll call the police to stay in this house. you know, if they have any workshops, they can use this school. But for you go somewhere else. Well,
you see, someone's comfort, may be discomfort to someone else, but I think for you to earn your comfort, you must do it in such a way that you do not discomfort the other person to whom you're trying to get your comfort.
And buying property is not a bad thing, yeah, but let's do it legally.
Absolutely. If you have the money, roll your sleeves up. It's always willing buyer, willing seller. Now, of course, the problem, again, typical of bad Ugandans is you have a willing buyer and a willing seller who, in fact, sells at an exorbitant price. And after he has been paid or she's been paid, they want to come back and claim the land.
Yeah,
opposition vowed to stop Lord Mayor by-election. Let's not forget that there is a by-election in April 17th to get a Kampala Lord Mayor. Let's recall that there has been a Lord Mayor in this city by the names of Elias Lukwago, whose political woes are perhaps very known to many of you, except those who've just landed into Uganda. But clearly get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor so that you can get a grip of this story and how it's playing out.
I'll tell you one thing that bothers me about that. Many people don't like Lukwago. I think he has one or two things to sort out.
Many people don't like Lukwago.
Well, a good number, perhaps not really many, but I've met many that do not really like the man. But I tell you, the way things are being done raises a lot of dust. Because you see, these MPs, for example, are saying we don't have money, so let's push elections. But here is a Lord Mayor that's been impeached in a fairly surreptitious manner. Run him out very quickly, organizing an election, very chap, using lots of money. And you're thinking, this is double standard. This is hypocrisy of the highest caliber.
Well, we are being advised this morning from an opinion columnist in the Daily Monitor. He says to the media, separate news from propaganda and smear campaign. And he is playing out a story that has been playing out on social media and in the papers about an alleged list of journalists, where they work and how much they have been paid and compromised to vouch and do the billing for Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi. And this is
some of them actually that I saw are not at all in any way interested in politics whatsoever.
Again, like I say, we are so bad that
I'm vouching for a few that I know personally.
I've told you, even when you think you know a Uganda, they surprise you. I mean, we surprise each other all the time, but you never know. Anyway, Prosper Magazine this morning, we are looking at the profile of a man who is a jack of all trades and a master of everything he touches. And this is the story of a man who has decided to turn his upcountry home into an industry, but also a learning institution. This is the Valley of Wealth, as the headline says. It's a story playing out from Bushenyi, where Elderly William Mukeira's business is profiled here. Get to know how he made his dime and how he's sustaining it, even as he is over 80 years of age.
There's an interesting article here. Your income depends on whom you associate with. You should evaluate the friends and company that you keep. They could make you richer or poorer.
Well,
some of you needed to hear that this morning.
Talking about which, there's an interesting development in eastern Uganda, and to be very specific, in Kamuli district, where you have residents aware that there are a plethora of NGOs funding economic activities for people who are HIV positive. Now, we've had many residents faking HIV results so as to be beneficiaries of one such project, which is a goat rearing project. Now, like the headline, like the story goes in the first opening line, desperate times call for desperate measures. I told you about the goodness or badness of Ugandans. Here you know that he's an NGO geared to provide for those who are health-wise incapacitated by virtue of the fact that they are HIV positive. But you know you are HIV negative, you have both your arms, you have the energy to do some other work, but you claim to be HIV positive for you to earn off this kind of project. I mean, how bad can it be?
And this is sometimes some of these things we fake. Eventually it could come to pass. There's the guy used to bump into every so often and would have a very good story of, see, my mother just passed on in Mulago, and he would elaborate it so nicely. The next time I met him, he was telling me the same story. I told him, your mother will die for real by the one of these good days. And I wasn't cussing him.
There's this guy that walks around and pretends he's, I think, deaf. And if he, when he asks
usually uses the mobile phone.
Yes, he has a mobile phone. And at first I assumed it's for SMS perhaps, and maybe WhatsApp. But then, if you refuse to give him money, he either shows you the middle finger or says something, and you're like, hey, dude, all of a sudden you can talk.
Just like another blind one who, usually gets money out of people, he wears shades, and the other day apparently was sending a text message. I don't know how, but miracles are possible in this country.
I mean, let's not try to be a bit stigmatic to people who are incapacitated with sight. For example, I have a very good friend of mine. He works with Stanchart Bank. I think he still works there. I met him there, and this guy is blind. But he recognized me. I think I asked him, how do you know me? He says, I've heard your voice before on a radio station. We shook hands, we exchanged numbers, and guess what? He sent me a text message 10 minutes after that. I am forever fascinated by his cognitive ability. He uses a special program on his computer to carry out his job, but the fact that he knows the keys of his mobile phone, in fact, I have him here for the big day on how to go against disability for you to be able to be able. He is one of the most competent people I know, yet he's visually impaired through and through.
There's also a guy on Mabiruzi complex, he's lame, and so that's why I really get frustrated when, you know, someone who is disabled comes up, the guy is just missing maybe one hand, all the other parts are there, but there are people who are barely, you know, they can't do anything about their situation, but the guy helps assemble cabinets.
Wow, that's very
and I'm frustrated when a guy like that comes and tells me, I want some money. No, go and try and do something
Disability is
about
not
it.
inability.
Yes. Well, now there is a brewing conflict, or at least is reported by the Daily Monitor this morning. In the energy sector, we have power distributor Umeme having an issue with the Electricity Regulatory Authority, and this is about to increase or not to increase power tariffs. And the headline story in today's Daily Monitor is reading, Umeme versus ERA, protecting electricity users or corporate greed. Get yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor and find out what exactly is taking place in the power sector. But what I can tell you from the onset, the rains are here, so there is no perhaps any excuse for not enough generation, as long as that there is enough permission from the
For the benefit of our viewers,
yes,
I find that there are so many players in the energy sector. There's generation, there's distribution, there's transmission,
yes.
There's
let's just about it.
Who is who? Quickly, what does Umeme do?
Well, let's start from the beginning. Electricity is generated, either hydropower generated, nuclear generated, or thermal generated, or geothermal generated. Now, in Uganda's case, we have two forms of generation, perhaps even three. There is solar, where that doesn't normally come to the grid, and then there is, let's call them four.
Thermal comes to the grid, right?
There is thermal, which is done by Jacobsen in Mukono. There is Electromax in Tororo. There was also another outfit that left, Agreco, that left for Tanzania. Then we've got hydroelectricity that's generated at the Narobare, Kira, and Bujagali. Major one by Eskom and Ujagali electricity. Then of course we have little hydro generators in Kilembe, for example, somewhere in western Uganda. Then we have got Kachira Sugar Works, which has got a generation of electricity using sugar cane molasses. So
what does Nyagak Dam use?
It also, Nyagak is a hydropower generation that is in the West Nile. That's run by Wenereko, which is one of the Aga Khan Development Foundation organizations, by the way, just so you know. When this electricity is generated and placed on the grid, at that point where it's placed on the grid, then Uganda Electricity Transmission Company Limited, right behind us here, whose office is right behind us, takes over and transmits this electricity, because this is high voltage electricity. It takes it to the major centers. There is, of course, the Lugogo Power Distribution Center and all that. Now, at that point, it's picked up by the distributor, which is Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited, whose operations are 80% or perhaps even more done by Umeme, which then distributes it to your home, to my home, and to the general
So
consumer.
who is ERA?
ERA is the Electricity Regulatory Authority. It's a semi-autonomous government agency that is out there to regulate the workings of the power sector. Just like you have the Uganda Communications Commission regulating the broadcast and the telecommunications company in Uganda, like you have got the National Environmental Management Authority, you've got the Uganda Insurance Regulatory Authority. So these are regulators who are supposed to ensure that the players in the electricity sector are playing by the set rules and they are playing ball the way they should. So I'm sure you're going to ask me who determines the tariff and all that.
The story has begun.
This morning from Eskom. Well, one of these days I will come here and break it down for you on how this really runs. But to bring it closer to my quarters, indeed, generation of electricity. Previously, we had Uganda Electricity Board, which did the generation, the transmission, and the distribution. But there were issues of competence and all that have always bogged down Ugandan parastatals. And the decision was made at a political level that this must be divested. And in fact, it should be broken down into the generation, transmission, and distribution companies to be managed and superintended over by an electricity regulatory authority. Because then, UEB was its own regulator, it was its own everything, except that it was under the ministry.
You mean Uganda Electricity Board?
Yes.
Electricity Board.
Yes,
that one.
Back then. So clearly that is how it plays out. Any other question in the electricity sector before?
Tomorrow, I suppose. Let's ruminate over that.
I get my script.
Getting flamox and...
No. I because you see, it's very important. Like for me, I think if I don't have water at my home, I'll go somewhere and shower. But I need electricity.
Certainly.
Because I need to work. We know some people, if I have wipes, I can be fine.
And I think that's there is a problem. I know everybody keeps exculpating themselves, saying no, it is the other ones, the other ones.
No,
there is a problem that needs to be remedied somehow.
But just like you said, like how we try to extricate Kampala Capital City Authority from taking responsibility of the vandalism around this whole thing. Vandals are not only limited to city installations. We've seen vandals who go ahead and steal oil from the transformers.
Yes.
We've seen Ugandans going ahead to steal high voltage power lines in that forest.
And actually one of the guys died up there.
In Kololo here. They got electrocuted.
And they say get rich or die trying.
Absolutely. Then you see Ugandans going ahead to carry out illegal connections. Now the moment
and many of the corporates, we might be here and
well, you're talking about corporates, government officials who do not pay their electricity bills. At the end of the day, Umeme is not here doing charity.
And so on.
These, whenever electricity is supplied, Umeme must be paid for it. Now, the moment someone doesn't pay their bill, at the end of the day, there will always be a way it is calculated that you who is genuine, like Molondo, who pays your bills regularly and you love to pay your own, you will have a markup on your bill to ensure that you pay for those who do not pay.
Estimating.
If Umeme, for example, did...
so you pay for other people's sins?
I pay, definitely.
Jesus said be like him, so...
Joel, a final one on this one. If Umeme, for example, envisages that this neighborhood where Kasiata and Molondo live is supposed to take 100 units of electricity, but in there is a certain gentleman or lady who is making an illegal connection who is not being envisaged, and at the end of the day, the demand there is 120 when the facility is meant for 100. Obviously, you see a breakdown in facility, and the moment a facility is broken down, then clearly you will have a challenge here. You will have a challenge. You will realize that a transformer will blow. When a transformer blows, then you will have a very, very big backlash with regard to electricity blackouts and the rest.
Right. Well, now, this is just coming in, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news. This is just coming in, and it's a press release from the Uganda police. We have received intelligence information that terrorists belonging to the Al-Shabaab group are planning to attack Uganda by hitting fuel tankers in transit, fuel depots and stations. Uganda Police and its sister security agencies have activated and enhanced the following countermeasures. One, we have identified fuel tanker stopovers and parking places like Naluwerere, Mbiko, Lugazi, Nakawa, Buwama, Lyantonde, Ruti, Rubare, Karuma, Elegu and any other areas within the country, and we have deployed adequately in these places both overt and covert personnel. Number two, with immediate effect, we are escorting all fuel tankers from Busia and Malabar borders in convoy by our counter-terrorism officers in liaison with the territorial commanders of the area in which these tankers are passing, and integrated highway police up to multiple ICD Nakawa, Kampala.
Well, there we have it, a press release from the police. But Ben, I think for the benefit of our viewers who may be as confused as we are, we need to look at the date of this press release, because this is a press release that could have been issued. I've had this before. Is this a recurrent problem?
This is a press release that just came in this morning, 17th, actually last night, and the police is definitely asking you not to panic. This is something that probably was written last night, and
well, I think this is a story that for all intents and purposes we could have a discussion on, the three of us, when we get down to the segment of the big story, because it's an important aspect to look at terror and its effect on a country, and of course security of any country or any people cannot be taken for granted. So whatever it is that we had lined up for the big story, we'll have to put a cap on it and then first discuss the issue of terror and how each one of us can be vigilant. But before we can get there, let's look at the final take, other newspapers, especially the sports section, We have an interesting playoff where Didier Drogba, a man who spent over 8 years scoring goals for his English Premiership side, Chelsea, out to face them in a tough tie between his now current club Galatasaray and Chelsea. And it's going to be an interesting epic move to see whether Didier Drogba will score against his old team which he made to the top, and if he does, whether he will celebrate, and if he celebrates, how he will celebrate. Will he remove a shirt, or he'll go and kiss the feet of Jose Mourinho?
It's like attending your ex-girlfriend's or ex-boyfriend's wedding.
Especially
not a very bad thing.
If you split on amicable terms, like Chelsea did with Drogba, I am sure at that point you would even be asked to be an MC at the wedding.
Why not? Senor. I can.
How would you do?
I can, and I'll do it so nicely, of course, along the way I'll quip in a little bit. But
Joel, like we always say, the test of the pudding is in the eating, so let's take a short break, eat some pudding, and be back with a big story.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
What's that?
That document.
Oh, that. Just some business.
I came to apologize. I have no right to interfere in your lives.
I've eliminated the only evidence that links me to Ivan Chinawa's death.
But you didn't have to kill another person.
It's not like I've got anything to hide, Nene. Just go ahead.
Victoria, how is it like to work for Miles Vilagazzi?
Blood seemed to matter not.
Blood?
Yeah, blood.
I'm responsible for your father's death.
Running out of airtime can happen to anyone. The next time you recharge, simply dial *161# to get going again.
On the next episode of La Patrona.
Yes, I'm the man and the owner of this house. I provide for you, for my daughters. Go be with Shakan. Let him take care of you. Go on, go. Go to the dollhouse. Let's see if they take you in, you old worn-out hag.
Boy, you can say things too, and you think that I don't think or feel. Come on. And don't give me your excuse that you're after revenge because your attitude gives you away. It's the attitude of a woman who's been hurt. A jealous woman.
Her perfume smelled awfully familiar to me. She was trembling all over. When I touched her, she was shaking.
What, with passion?
No. It was fear.
La Patrona.
At Orange, we know that running out of airtime can happen to anyone. That's why we bring you Wetase. Simply dial *161# to get going again. Convenience changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulondo.
We are wired to start your day here at Morning at NTV, and now we return to Simon and Joel for the big story.
This morning, and of course coming in as some sort of breaking news with a press release coming in from the Uganda police that says there is information, credible information, according to them, that we have terrorists from the Al-Shabaab outfit out to destabilize this country by specifically hitting fuel tankers on transit, fuel stations, and of course fuel depots. And the Uganda police is, of course, detailing in this press release what measures they are taking to avert any possible attack. And they conclude in the press review, in the press statement, saying, we advise the public not to panic. Well, and they say, we are hunting for these evil elements with a view of arresting and prosecuting them. Now, without trivializing this or pouring cold water on this, perhaps even giving it the importance that it deserves, this morning we are taking it as our first segment of the big story this morning. And myself and Joel are going to, push back and forth on this whole item. Joel, isn't this all too familiar?
I think it is. And when the police comes out to say that let's not panic, I'll tell you the biggest tool, if you like, that terrorists usually have is instilling fear among people. And they do that usually a great deal, make a little bit of noise, threats here and there, and then everybody gets into a panic, into a frenzy. And that happens a great deal here. When we hear of threats like this, we begin to check, especially at the hotels and everywhere, parks,
people start checking under your tongue and all that. In other words, the terrorists have won. Because what I know, for example,
that's their intended purpose.
What I know, for example, in Tel Aviv, a bomb goes up on the street. What they will do, the Israeli authorities will cordon off the street, clean off the carnage, and immediately open that road for reuse. They do not allow the psychological terror to go into their minds. But here, a mere threat, well, I would want to say mere because I am not privy to the intelligence information that they have, but what is playing out to read in the public is it's a mere threat, and we're going to see this whole country running into a stampede of security agencies holding micro guerrillas on the streets and looking also mean and tough. Isn't that a success to terrorists?
It certainly is, and I'm sure they're sitting back and they're thinking, wow, we have delivered. Because ultimately for them, it's not even about killing people, it's about instilling fear so that you get to realize, okay, these guys are forced to reckon with, and yet they are not, Ultimately, I actually don't believe police can do a great deal of fighting terrorism on their own. It is you and I, citizenry, because we know these guys, we see the way they operate. Many times, actually, we operate in cahoots with them, we help them out. You remember them?
Without you knowing, exactly.
Many times even with knowledge, because you see, many of the suspects back in the day, the twin bombings in Kampala, they were our local young people here. So people actually get to know what's happening, but money, but of course, they feel their hands are tied.
Talking about money for we to aid terrorists, but also there is talk, and I cannot bat an eyelid without mentioning it, that many times you get police coming up with such press releases at a time when they are trying to get some operational funds from the government, that now the police is realizing they need some money, so an ingenious commander or commissioner in the police says, wait, let's come up with a terror threat, we get operational funds, hoover around a little bit, and then siphon off this money and make a living. That is an allegation that plays out in the public domain. To the extent that now many people no longer take seriously some of these threats, because after all they see is huge operational costs coming in, or this is coming out at a time when police is about to seek for a supplementary budget from Parliament to make a justification for it. What's your view with regard to that allegation?
The other school of thought actually is when police wants to come in a very totalitarian way against the opposition, for example, they release some of these, and so they say, no gathering, we are going to cordon off certain areas, and as you know already, for example, the opposition is planning to have demos, and they are saying they are not going to allow the Lord Mayor election and that kind of thing. And it could be true, that police is doing that to ensure that, okay, now they have a reason good enough to clamp down heavily on these guys. But a threat is a threat, and when they come up with that, certainly we need not to get into fear, but of course we need to keep our eyes very wide open.
The credibility of the Ugandan police. Ugandan police is not the kind of angels that we're talking about here. Yes, they are charged with keeping law and order, protecting and serving, but for the most part they seem to do the complete travesty of what they are charged to do. So issues of integrity are very high on the minds of Ugandans with regard to police officers. So when they come up with such very, proactive movements, for example, coming out to issue such a press release ahead of an actual terror. Because, like I always say, they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. If they tell us in time, well, we castigate them for trying to create a scheme to make some money. If they don't and keep it themselves and act covertly and possibly something goes wrong, we say, why didn't you tell us, so that we are aware and we are all on the lookout and we support your efforts? To what extent can the police be able to offer this service without being looked at with tongue-in-cheek or with a raised eyebrow?
If I were to advise police force, if they listen anyway, key thing that they need to do, they've bought the tear gas, they've done all these things that they can do. They need to build their trust between the police force and Ugandans. Because you see, research has been done again and again, and we are told Ugandans actually trust the army a lot more than they trust police. Now, that is scary because you see, we are with the police domestically all over the place. Yeah, and if we trust the army, which is much of the time in the barracks, and not trust police, who we should be calling on anytime they need, we need them to help us, I think that is very tricky. So ultimately, even when this is genuine, many of us will think, no, these guys are being disingenuous, like you're saying. There's many allegations all over the place. Maybe they want money. Maybe they just want to clamp down on the opposition. Ultimately, that trust has got to be built. And you see, the trust has been abused. Why? Because the way we see police clamping down on people. You arrest somebody, you're putting them on your cabin, but you're continuing to beat them up. And people are thinking, what is wrong with these guys?
What about the Ugandan who they arrest? They know they already have been subdued by the police. In fact, they have been outnumbered by the police, and they continue to fight.
That is wrong.
I've seen footage of one opposition leader, and to be very specific, my very good friend, Kano Besige, who he's been arrested. He's been read to the Riot Act. He may have been arrested in a manner so brazen, so macabre, and you can use all sorts of superlatives to describe the way he's arrested. But then he goes ahead to fight his way simply because cameras are rolling and the images will be beamed across the world. What do you do to such an action if you're the police? Isn't your reaction supposed to be equal so that you can create equilibrium?
Yeah, but you see, you're the police force. We expect you to be the professional one. And I'm not in any way giving that as an alibi that people should operate tempestuously, and when police comes, they do not give in. I think we need to respect the police, but I'll tell you, police in many ways is seen as a henchman of the powers that be. It's seen to operate in a demagogic tendency, which is wrong, because if we think these guys are for, say the NRM for that matter, and therefore
well, even some elements within the NRM have got their own questions about the Uganda police. You've seen the divisions in the NRM is already saying, well, we are seeing youth being arrested simply because of an expression of desire to support a particular candidate against the other. So the police is in that kind of situation. But let's look at also the fuel cartels. Let's not forget the fact that we have businesses here run by huge multinational organizations that supply us with fuel. Suppose these fuel cartels want to increase their price. Well, we've seen government saying they're going to tax more on fuel, which has got a huge ripple down effect on how other goods and services are going to cost. But many times we've seen fuel companies increasing their price and giving us all sorts of flimsy reasons across the way. How about planning with the police and say, look, we have not increased the price of fuel in a long time, which is the truth. I think the dollar has been very kind to us. Whatever other factors determine whether or not fuel prices go up have been very kind to us. We've seen fuel hovering between 3,600 for petrol up to about 3,800 in the last so many months. And I think fuel companies are running impatient with regard to how else they have been able to increase prices. Suppose they say, well, there is a threat on us, the fuel will be scarce, and you know what scarcity brings? It brings about short supply and an increase in prices. Isn't this a way to look at it? Let's look at...
That's very much another possibility. There's many angles to this. And I'll tell you, they don't even need to, surreptitiously operate with police and say, let's work this out together. No, they can just say, look, we are transporting our fuel and we've got these threats, and they inform police, because many times police is actually not on ground. When they come out with statements such as this, it's because they've received information which they think is credible and authentic to that effect. But you see, how do we remedy that as a country? Because these threats will always be in place. We have fuel reserves in Ginger and all over the place. What are they always full of? Air. I don't even think it is oxygen, carbon dioxide, whatever the case might be. And that is wrong. Each time there is a crisis, they say, okay, now we are cleaning them up, want to, remodify them and that kind of thing. That's the alibi we keep hearing.
So it's a case of government failing to plan.
Well, in many ways, yes.
I must thank you very much for giving me company in discussing this, and you have been eloquently able to provide insight into the kind of issues that are at play, and of course to remind you that we have the police issuing out a terror alert and asking you, the public, to be on the lookout, but also not to panic. For as long as they are in charge, everything will be averted. Now let's get into our NTV studios to get a link to Mabel to tell us what's happening on social media, especially with regard to the news of this terror attack. When we return, it will be part 2 of the big story this morning, an interesting insight into the political goings-on to be discussed by one of the political players that is just joining us after this short interaction with Mabel in the studio. Over to you, Mabel.
Thank you very much, Simon. And here's a lovely picture that they took this morning, Simon, Bran, and Joel. And to some of your messages, Justin says, security, terror hits Uganda as Al-Shabaab returns. We are all dead meat. This is regarding the press release from the police. Thanks for the show, you guys. Make my mornings sweet. Justin says, power tariffs again. This is all politics. Umeme, what is this? Katende says, like the new telecom and NRM leavers, thank you for waking me up every morning. And on to some of the comments regarding the press review. Justin says, Sudanese, thank you for treating Ugandans the way you like, but you will surely reap from what you sow. Derek says, Simon, I agree with you about the South Sudanese. Those people are rude, and they were rude to me when I was in school with them. They were so rude. Johnson Kansime says, you guys, thanks for the show. You really turn on my world. You rock. And I don't know why people like having Brian over Arsenal. Zenson says, this goes to Brian. In every game there is a winner and a loser. So Arsenal will go trophyless this season. I don't know where he got that from. Alex says, hey, Mbabazi is suffering from his own making. Bigumire. And you guys like your show, Banange. You make my day always. And Rolex here says, very smart always. Wow. And if you have not yet liked our page, please go and like our page, Morning at NTV. We have lots of updates there. If you're interested in winning the HTC phone, you'll find clues on how to win the phone. This is a picture we took yesterday with Dakara and myself and Brian. It was a selfie actually. And to some of your comments, Senyonjo says, Moyes is a football genius. Ha ha ha. This team will make me laugh out my lungs cause Telina Mulamia. Anyway, Abba says, we like the update and congs to the investor in betting. We shall be talking about that. Someone says, Wabula Brian, haha. As for Mebo, it's okay for you. You can jump off your seat. I can see the excitement, but I'm not excited after what happened to Man United over the weekend. And we shall now return to the Kampala Serena Hotel rooftop for the second part of today's big story.
Well, here we have the second part of the big story this morning, and yes, we are going political. Looking at the political goings-on that have happened in the last several weeks, or should I say now months, where the National Resistance Movement is, of course, going through the pangs of selecting who or what they will do with themselves come the 2016 general election, if at all, because, of course, there was already some word that this election may not take place because all elected leaders may unanimously agree to extend their term of office to 2021 because there are a number of electoral reforms that need to be effected, and yes, the time remaining of 2 years is certainly not going to be ample. Now, for the most part, we see NRM going through their motions. Secretary General that has got ambitions perhaps not within the acceptable levels, tussling it out with the president whose support base within the NRM is such that we do not want this kind of competition for it to break the party apart, or that we should allow our president to serve forever and ever whenever it suits him best. Now, this is of course a healthy political going on in the party called NRM. But on the other hand, NRM doesn't play in a vacuum. There are several political parties that are vying for power with the NRM who at this point in time, like they always say, when there is a malfunction somewhere, you should be able to take advantage of this problem. Now, is the Ugandan opposition taking advantage of the goings-on in the NRM to try and sell their message deeper onto the Ugandan psyche, or even galvanize themselves to, in fact, snatch power away from the NRM when the next election arrives? For the most part, what we've seen is Ugandan opposition groups spending a lot more time gloating over the goings-on in the NRM, and of course hopping from one media house to another, yes, just thumping and thanking the good heavens for the goings-on in the NRM and doing little else. But today, we have one of the opposition leaders, Betty Olive Kamya, who is the president of, remind us, Betty?
Uganda Federal Alliance.
Uganda Federal Alliance, like I've argued on this show, sells sometimes a very difficult to understand phenomena, which is federalism. Now, we know federal, that ends with an RO, we know federalism, but Betty here has had a way of articulating this issue in more ways than many of us understood. But to get to you, Betty, we have a situation in NRM. We have you in the opposition, very specifically yourself, who's got this difficult phenomena to sell to Ugandans. To what extent are you, Betty, harnessing the goings-on in the NRM, the distraction that they have, to send forth your message for it to be understood and articulated by most Ugandans?
First of all, I thank you, Simon, for inviting me to this show. And I appreciate the people that are watching.
You're one of those few people I interview, and instead of answering my questions first, you always exchange good pleasantries. And that's a sign perhaps of good manners on your side. But tell me, are you using this to your advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to answer your question, Simon, the goings on in NRM, how they can advantage the opposition, what Ugandans must understand, or what Ugandans have not yet grasped, is the phenomenon of the power of the president. There is NRM party on the one side.
True.
There is also the phenomenon of the power of the president of Uganda. Now, the power of the president of Uganda makes the president such almost invincible, because and that power is given to him by the constitution, by the way.
And which constitution was made by all of us Ugandans, for we sent
but that's not an excuse. We can change it, and that's what we are doing to answer your question. The constitution of Uganda gives the president all the ammunition that anybody needs to win any war and to get away with anything. If I was seated in President Museveni's chair,
which you possibly would have been if you had won the last election, because you were one of the presidential aspirants.
But operating under this constitution, you cannot defeat me. You cannot.
You didn't realize that when you came to vie for that presidency in 2011?
Simon, people have got different objectives. And my objectives are not always to win the presidency. No. My objective of the time was to launch my party using the most opportune scenario of the presidential campaign, launch the party, launch the ideology, and take it out of Buganda, throughout Uganda, to be used, moreover using state car, fuel, and opportunities that are given.
Quite an optimist and smart politician.
Yes, we have different objectives.
But to bring it closer to our discussion here, Betty, like I said earlier, we've seen this situation going on in the NRM, the immense powers of the president, and the NRM that is almost infused with the state machinery.
Exactly.
Now, we've seen commentaries coming in from your colleagues in the opposition saying, well, what's happening in the NRM is going to affect all of us. It has a ripple-down effect. And they're spending more time issuing commentaries and giving interviews as opposed to going on the ground. Because at the end of the day, it's about being ingrained in the minds and physique of Ugandans. How much are you doing in that effect?
You are not listening to what I'm saying, Simon. What I'm saying is that the president appoints practical all the public servants, the people who are operating this country. They are NRM cadres, all of them.
Cadre judges.
The cadre judges, the RDCs, the DSOs, the judges, the commissioners, the heads of departments, the boards, people who sit on the boards, entirely everybody. So that kind of structure is very difficult, and most importantly, Bank of Uganda. Now, if somebody has got all the money that they can get to, plus all the jobs, plus the jobs, because he's the one that gives the jobs, plus the military might, he's almost invincible. So what we are doing as Uganda Federal Alliance, and what we've been doing since the last 2 years since we were registered, is to tell people that we need to dismantle this constitution, because the constitution of Uganda creates for us an imperial presidency. There is not even Obama has the power that the president of Uganda has, because the Constitution of the United States was designed in such a way that a lot of power is vested in the states, in the governors, and there's no way that Obama can overstep them to go and reach
But Betty, clearly the president is not blind to the fact that he's got this immense power provided him by the Constitution, and therefore him and his NRM would be the people with the least appetite to vouch for your idea of a constitutional change to reduce on the amount of power that he has as an individual. To what extent will you actualize that quest to have
and we are not depending on the president or the party in power. We are depending on Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution.
Power belongs to the
and
people.
Article 255, 1 Section 4 says the people will determine how they wish to be governed through referenda. And the referenda does not depend on the president. people just to have to write a petition and 10% of registered voters to support that petition, and there will be a referendum.
But that's your voice as Uganda Federal Alliance or Uganda Federal Movement. How about the other groups, the Forum for Democratic Change, where you came from, the Uganda People's Congress, all together, apart from you, have gone around the country for the last 2 years since the election? First, they went on a mass public demonstration dubbed Walk to Work. From there, they went into a movement called Black Monday Movement, joining civil society organizations. Now they are launching another united front on the capital of Kampala to avert the by-election for the mayor. I mean, you remain articulating that issue of a constitutional change, but how much support are you getting from the other opposition groups who also would stand to benefit greatly, because I'm sure they also share the same sentiment with you that an imperial presidency is not good for their survival?
You see, Simon, I don't know how people are trained, but I was trained as in corporate management. Before I came into full-time politics, I was doing corporate management. And the way we are trained is that every objective, if you wanted to go to its final destination, has got to be in the framework of SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So everything that you want to do, it has got to have a clear destination, and you must have a plan on how to get to the clear destination. So I don't know how my colleagues are viewing the things, but every activity you should ask whether it has a clear destination and whether it is achievable. So for Uganda Federal Alliance, our plan has a clear destination. You have
without a doubt, Betty, I can see clearly that you are on the right path within your party, but do not play politically correct by not being able to face your colleagues in the opposition and tell them the disappointment that they are with regard to acting in a manner that doesn't conform to the dictates of SMART.
No, what we do...
Are you simply saying that their activities are not within the issue of SMART?
No. I'm just asking them to measure their activities against this internationally recognized framework of a SMART objective with a clear destination, a timeline, and and a clear measurable ingredients. So with a referendum, the destination is a referendum. To get there, you need 10% signatures. That is achievable. And once you get the signatures, the results of the referendum are binding. That's what the Constitution says, because they're backed by law. So all the other activities, you've got to say, will the results be backed by law? And if they're not backed by the law, are they going to be binding? And how are they going to be binding? So the only way that they can be binding is if it's a coup, militarily. If you get them through militarily and you hold your own by military power. Short of that, you need an activity that has the force of law. The force of law that will make it binding on everybody because it's constitutional.
Betty, we saw you after graciously losing the last election. I use the word graciously because you capitulated, unlike many other people who even...
Correction, I did not capitulate. I said that Uganda Federal Alliance, we achieved our objectives. Our objective was to launch the party, to go around the country, launch our ideology, and de-Ugandanize federalism, but Ugandanize it. So
capitulation is put in the sense that you did not contest the results of the election, that you said, well, the best person won, Ugandans decided, and you went ahead. From the moment a winner was chosen, you hit the ground running and traversed this country, going ahead with your objective.
And we launched the referendum program.
Absolutely. And that's why I was saying that you capitulated and moved ahead, unlike some of your colleagues, some of whom did not even participate in the election themselves as individuals, and then after that election came and claimed that they were rigged out when they did not even vote themselves in. And so for the most part, after the election, they spent more time in urban centers, running left, right, and center in running battles with the police, as opposed to going on the ground and building power bases with ordinary wananchi and the like. Now, today, fast forward, they have a situation where NRM is seen as a party that's on the verge of breaking up. The fault lines are very clear, and there seems to be little in terms of taking advantage of this situation in the NRM with regard to mobilization on the grassroots. Doesn't that bother you that perhaps no matter the problems within the NRM, we still continue to see an opposition that doesn't really mean business?
No, yes and no. We mean business, but as I said, for us we went out and launched a program, and I can tell you here that so far we have collected about 900,000 signatures, all of them registered voters who want to support, who have supported the petition to hold a referendum.
But I can see that you're steering clear of talking on behalf of other opposition groups. And
yeah, because it's not my responsibility, first of all, and I don't want to speak for them. They will speak for themselves.
I thought you were. I thought you were you as an opposition group. It's better that you are united in purpose, and your purpose should be to remove President Museveni and his hegemony from the
you know, I don't know what the word opposition means. Now, I find difficulty with the word opposition even. My opposition is anybody who is not a federalist and who fights federalism. For that matter, I will tell you, if, for instance, the Attorney General of the opposition in Parliament, my good friend Abdu Katuntu, he always tells me that he's not a federalist. So for me, I would never vote for Abdu Katuntu because he's not a federalist. I have a feeling that General Mugisha Muntu is not clear on federalism. So I would have a problem with him. But I have a feeling that if I got somebody from NRM, for instance, who is a clear federalist, I can do business with that. So we've got to steer away from personalities to issues. My opposition is anybody who fights federalism and is not a federalism, and my friend is anybody who supports federalism, and we can work together to push federalism. Like in my petition, for instance, there are people, Simon, there are people in NRM who have supported, who have signed the petition
for a referendum.
For a referendum, and they are NRM. And there are people in the opposition who have refused to sign the petition. So now, of those two, who is my friend?
So clearly we are seeing a new breed of political activity here where you're looking at friendship no matter where it is and not putting issues in an omnibus and saying anything against President Museveni's side, anything against NRM's side is certainly everything.
Because we are going to fight. If I, for instance, I work hard and put a non-federalist in Museveni's chair, then I start fighting him all again. It means that I'm wasted my energy.
Be in your position.
I might as well start now to look for friends in NRM, in FDC, in DP who are federalists, and to isolate people in their position in FDC, in DP, in UPC who are not federalists. We must raise the bar of our politics to issue that rather than personalities.
Well, she has said it more appropriately than anyone else would have said it on this show, that the level of political agitation in this country must raise beyond personalities and get into issues. Let's take a very quick break. When we return, it's Simon Says. Well, like we started off the discussion, we know that weaknesses that have been recently exposed within the NRM, the fragmentation that's reported in there, could possibly offer some fodder for Uganda's opposition to take advantage of and use the current unrest to their advantage. And one such group, the Uganda Federal Alliance, does not believe that this situation is one that is out of the blue. For them, it's business as usual. Go ahead and articulate your issue like you've always articulated it, no matter whether it rains or shines within the NRM. For at the end of the day, it is their issue and not the personalities at play that really matter. Now, when we turn to other opposition groups, which perhaps will have their chance to have a discussion with us on this very dice, we'll be looking at how much effort they have put in to take advantage of this situation. Are they going to sit back and cry foul and, of course, show some kind of exasperation and hopelessness with regard to the fact that we have an imperial presidency, thanks to our constitution, whom any fight brought his doorstep or wherever you bring it will certainly end in a victory for them by hook or crook? That's what we will be discussing subsequently. But for today, obviously, we know that whenever there is a situation anywhere, people have got to take an advantage of that situation. Like the Chinese say, and I'll close that, a wise man will seek for an opportunity in every problem. A foolish man will seek for a problem in every opportunity. Where do we lie as Ugandans, especially? Well, Betty Kamia quips in there that there are so many foolish people. That means people who are looking out for a problem in every opportunity. We'll be right back, same place, same time tomorrow. But for now, Morning at NTV continues with more quality programming.
ever gonna have a chance to be sisters.
You want the baby to have my name?
Would that be okay?
So I'm happy you came. Yes, especially since I thought you were shunning all things Newman. I have my own reasons for showing up.
What did you say about him?
I'm sorry, attempted rape.
Okay, look, whatever you think you know about him, you don't know his heart.
If there is a way to make me feel more miserable, you will instinctively find it.
You gave up the one woman you loved, and now you're having a hard time figuring out how to move on?
I can't imagine who would want to hurt a good man like you.
Okay, you know what? I don't need you telling me how to feel about Lily.
Are you pregnant? No. Then why are you trying to alienate Tyler?
Has something happened between the two of you?
Are you afraid that I'm gonna do something to ruin your marriage, or that you will?
Why don't we have a party? I'll bring Nikki and bring your siblings. How's that?
Now, what are you gonna do? You gonna blackmail them this time, or are you gonna bribe them?
Looks like Mommy's not the only one who knows how to make up a story.
We started with the goal of bringing the power of computing into the hands of people around the world. From the beginning, we were designing many of the world's first touch and wireless handheld devices. Reaching out to our partners and setting no limits on innovation, we produced one of the most popular touch experience devices of the time. We were building smartphones before the term smartphone even existed. We then set out to make the most versatile smartphones, including ones that let you use either a touchscreen or a keyboard. We saw the potential of 3G early on and introduced the world's first 3G Windows mobile smartphone. We changed the way you use your fingers. Based on our research into gestures, we gave you the intuitive and easy-to-use HTC Touch. We then announced a new way for you to experience the internet with the world's first Google Android smartphone. To give you the most personal experience, we introduced HTC Sense, a user experience that fundamentally changes the way you use your phone by making things work the way you expect them to. We once more revolutionized the industry by launching the world's first 4G Android smartphone. We integrated Beats audio into our phones to deliver the most authentic sound experience, enabling people to finally feel the music the way the artist intended. We created a one-of-a-kind phone with an amazing camera that outperforms most point-and-shoot varieties. Most recently, we once again set the industry ablaze with the new HTC One. Critics have hailed the new One with its full metal body design, a live home screen, photos that come to life, and dual frontal speakers as the best Android phone of the year. Curiosity and ingenuity have defined our history, and we're recognized by the industry as one of the world's most innovative brands. We've come a long way, but one thing hasn't changed. It's people like you that inspire us to create the most innovative products in a world that becomes more connected every day.
Running out of airtime can happen to anyone. The next time you recharge, simply dial *161# to get going again.
On the next episode of Destiny River.
I understand. And you would want us to leave this place now, am I right? Wrong. If the show is gonna make Dad mad, I like it. The circus can stay on my land for as long as you want.
This is an acknowledgement. One is gone. But there's another. Just one. The sun.
Destiny River.
At Orange, we know that running out of airtime can happen to anyone. That's why we bring you Wetase. Simply dial *161# to get going again. Convenience changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji, and Brian Mulundo.
Happy birthday to you,
Birthday time here at Morning at NTV, and today we wish the following all the joy and love. Adrian Blessing, who studied at Makerere. Happy birthday to you, Adrian. And Shenazi Pwiti, who works at Lotus Hotel. She went to Hannah Mixed International School. Happy birthday to you too. And Sarah Kamuli, who formerly studied at Makerere University. Happy birthday to you. Remember, if you want us to send greetings to your loved ones, do text 6565 and we will be glad to do that. As you can see, a picture that we posted on Facebook earlier. We hosted Betty Kamya with Simon here for the big story. And moving on to some of your comments, Webster says, I like Mrs. Betty Kamya's ideology. How I wish the NRM bandits would copy some useful ones and put aside their selfishness. Alinda says, Betty, do you believe that the current Electoral Commission can deliver a free and fair referendum result? We also have someone here, very interesting. Chris says, honestly, I had never seen that lady talk. She is shrewd and has uncorrupt acumen. I will stop supporting Manchester United and join her party. And please let her tell us the articles that need amendment, and I will send my vote for holding a referendum. We have Bosco Muyenga, who says Kasiate is one controversial fellow, and he also goes on to quote what Betty Kamya said about, I don't know what the word opposition means. And then someone complaining about Umeme. Umeme decides to do what it does best when I'm really enjoying Betty Kamya. And then Alinda says, Betty, the priority should be change president, change electoral commission, and then hold that referendum to trim the super presidential powers. Please go to our Facebook page and like it, and we'll be glad to read some of your messages. Isaac says, Betty, I like you because you're always strict to the point. But when will your federal alliance come to power or accept the defeat? That's an interesting one there. And Nicholas wants to know, he's asking, what are some of the articles in the Constitution that need to be changed? And more of your messages here. Remember that someone here Andrew saying he's in total agreement with the police guidelines. This is in relation to the police statement that was released earlier. And if you haven't yet liked our page, we are left with about 80 people to reach the 10,000 mark, and that will be some sort of celebration for us here. So please go and like our Facebook page, Morning at NTV. We have 9,907 likes, and you will get to see lots of behind the scenes footage there. I now return you to Brian for Everyday Life.
It's the first thing you see in the morning and the last thing you see at night. It stresses you out. It calms you down. It helps you remember. It helps you forget. It keeps you connected. It's the only thing you own that is always within an arm's reach. Which is why you don't need to get a phone. You need a phone that gets you. And you. And you. And we are HTC.
Everyday Life is brought to you by...
And we are HTC.
A very good morning to you. What a day full of so much activity. Betty Kamya, and of course some breaking news there. Uganda police issuing a press release that the Al-Shabaab might be carrying out attacks on fuel tankers and stations. News coming in now is that Nakumatt shopping mall also has been closed. Lots of police and security personnel over there. Will be getting more information as and when it comes through. Yes, this is definitely your hottest ticket in the morning, and I'd like to say that once again, Nakumatt
is closed at the moment. Police and security personnel at the premises will get that information. If you can, of course, do that and, keep us also updated. You can become a reporter this morning. Morning at NTV is our Twitter handle, and Facebook Morning at NTV. You can also send us a quick SMS to 6565. Everyday Life powered by HTC, quietly brilliant. And you can head over to the HTC hub where there's lots of models, not just the HTC One Max, which I own, and there's also the HTC Desire 500, 600, 400, 300, and the HTC One Max. Awesome features every week. We give out 2 phones, and on Friday we'll be bringing in the people that won the phones this week, and also carry out another draw. But this week we're focusing on the HTC Desire 500, and features ranging from the camera to GPS to recording also in full HD for the cameras, and a blink feed that is like your news feed if you use Facebook. And for those of you who do Twitter, which is like your home setting, just keeps bringing in. You can switch it on and off as and when you please. You can also choose what you want to come in, from lifestyle to other news networks like Fox, CBS, CNN, NTV. All these can update you as and when they get their news online. But there's still lots of models on sale. You can grab also one of the HTC phones today. And coming up is Everyday Life. Good morning. Mariam Igana Samba is our guest this morning. What a huge profile you have. But one thing that got me, fascinated is that you say you're a graduate of the School of Life. What exactly is that?
Graduate of School of Life means you've seen lots of sides of life, and in such a short time, and you feel not that there's not anything left to learn, but bring it on.
Right.
Bring it on.
I've been there. I've done that.
You look at things and you're like, okay, bring it on. Even that I can handle.
Right.
Yes.
You're an expert at failure. I think you hit it that last week.
Yes, I don't want to call myself an expert on failure, but I've been there. I've done that, and I've seen a lot of failure.
Right.
And I've come to redefine success more from a point of failing than just getting it right the first time.
Awesome.
My own story, my own definition.
Awesome. This morning, I told you last week that we'll be talking about failing forward. And some people have said, yes, we determine your success on the number of times you get up. But this morning, Miriam is going to give us another perspective. You can actually fail forward. It's better than failing backwards. Miriam, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. I know you're very busy, and you have to spare some time. Your story is quite amazing. Medical school, law school, then business school. Why did you choose to do this? What's your story?
My story, Brian, it wasn't a choice. Honestly, it wasn't a choice. Looking back with hindsight, then it didn't make sense. But with hindsight, my story is the true story of failing forward in the practical sense. I can say I went to medical school because when you're brilliant in school, you do sciences. When you do sciences, you're either a pharmacist or a doctor in our days.
Yes, or an engineer.
Oh, an engineer. But with biology, you can't do engineering.
Right.
So I did medicine because my teachers thought I could do it. My parents wanted it. It would bring prestige to my family. And yeah. Then when I finished 6 years of medical school.
You did medical school?
Yes, in a French-speaking country, so I did medicine in French.
What?
Yes. And then...
The doctor in Paris?
No, it was Algeria.
Algeria?
Yes. And then I come back, and then I realized I need to do a quick degree to earn a living and fit with my peers.
Couldn't you be a doctor here?
Well, I fell through. I didn't really... Of course I fell through. I didn't really feel the medical profession when it comes down to what you have to do as a doctor. And then the other things I wanted to do in life that medicine could not give me.
Right.
So I quickly dashed to business school, to get a good qualification to earn a living and then fit with my peers. So I went to MUBS and did a bachelor's in procurement and an MBA. And after I had a good job from qualifications, I'm earning a living and I socially belong, I decided to do a course of my dreams. I went to law school just to know what the lawyers know, to have an idea. But I just did a diploma in LDC. Yeah.
I can tell you I would never study law just to find out what's
to know what the lawyers know. Yes, exactly, to know what's up.
Wow. Quite, you know, I'm here debating on going back to school, and you've just showed me that you can just go back and study just for just. Yes. The concept of failing forward is quite new. Yeah, most of us will say, if you fail 7 times, you get up 8 times, you know. Yes, that's what you need to. But failing forward is bringing it home, really. Okay. What exactly is this?
My definition, and I say my definition of failing forward, is giving it one more go with everything you have left. Because when you fail, it means you've been doing something and then you failed. So when you fail, some things drop off, some things stay on, and other things come from nowhere. Right. So giving it one more go with everything you have left after a great fall. When you fall, usually you don't come back the same.
Yeah.
A lot changes. There's something about second chances. They're never the same. They're usually much harder.
Yeah.
They are much more difficult. A lot of things have fallen off. Friends, chances, time, resources. So you have to really have a brand new focus. And this is where you determine, you give your success a new definition from the point of falling to what the next phase is going to be. And that really determines where you're going to be, whether you'll succeed or fail. What I think about failing forward, in my opinion, is you get a brand new, first of all, perception of failure. And then a new response. Because failure is an external event. But most of the times, the things we fail at are not within us. The external circumstances that cause us to fail. Them. No, we don't. But the definition and response are things we can control.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's very good. In this work that you've done, what do you think makes people fail easily? Because we are so excited. You know, last week when I was with Humphrey, we're like, okay, setting goals. We have the formula SMART. Betty Kami has just been talking about SMART. She was in corporate management, and we list the 10 goals that we want to achieve. And then
I think people fail the minute they stop trying. At whatever, by the way, whatever you've defined your definition of success is, because in my own words, success is failure turned inside out. The minute you stop trying, it doesn't matter if you failed once or 1,000 times. You only fail when you stop trying.
Right.
And when you stop trying, you get paralyzed. You start by procrastinating, then you get paralyzed. The worst stage of paralysis is purposelessness. Once you're paralyzed, you lose the thing that got you up in the morning ceases to make sense, and then you end up losing your life's purpose, and that is when you start failing. If it was a dream to make money, that's when it dawns on you that I'm going to die a broke man. Yeah. If it was a dream to be a good mom, you start thinking you're the worst wife, the worst mom. They don't have to be big things like being the president of this country, but the minute you stop trying, you procrastinate, then you stop dreaming.
Right.
Yeah, that is when you fail.
You know, I have the view that every time you get comfortable at what you do, you know, if say I woke up one morning and I'm like, I don't want to go to morning at NTV, then I always think it's my time to go. I don't want to do this anymore.
I beg to differ. We all have those moments when we don't want to do. Even the biggest, wildest dreams sometimes can become mundane in your head. That is why there is always a need to pause and first of all go back to that place where you dreamed and see, why was this important to me in the first place. You revise. I have come in contact with a failure called reinventing yourself. You can't do it. And you need to reinvent yourself as many times as it takes to get to that place that you wanted to be in the first place. Because why do you stop? Sometimes it's really fatigue. It may be an issue of sleeping less hours. Or a change in mindset. Once you like to be on TV, then you think you still want to be on TV, but it's not bringing as much money. Then you start looking at your peers who are into, say, money lending or car selling. Then you start redefining your dream in line of somebody else's target.
Right.
So the place to stop and think is not really phasing out. It's okay to stop and slow down. And I think when you do it right, you come back much stronger, much more focused, and much better.
Do I have to fail before I succeed?
Yes. I think you should fail to succeed, because failure helps you put your success in perspective. God forbid that you should succeed without never failing.
Isn't that awesome?
No,
Isn't that what we all think about?
It will never sustain you.
That's the desire of our hearts, to always succeed.
You will get there, no doubt. Some people get it right the first time, but you'll miss things like character, integrity, the very thing that you need to sustain you up there. A person who has not failed usually has a hard time dealing with the success that comes in a boom. Because they've not worked at it, they have not connected, they become judgmental, they become obnoxious, and success is not a destination.
Right.
It's a journey. You need things to keep you up there. Whatever your definition is, it's not a place you arrive at and you're like, bang. So if you've not learned the things to sustain, you've not carried the fuel that will keep you there, you'll be as successful and unhappy or insecure or fear. You can be all that. We see you on TV, Brian Mulondo, but when the cameras are off, you hate yourself. So I think when you fail before, it makes you more humble, it creates humility, and it gives you the character to stay successful.
Isn't it awesome? Like isn't it just awesome? I don't understand why you would, subscribe to that notion that failure must precede success.
It's a reality check. Failure is part of life. Failure is unavoidable. It will come. It is more common than success. If you look around, chances of failing are much higher than chances of succeeding. And I'm not being a forever pessimist, but it's a reality.
I was about to say that.
No. Failure will come. No matter how hard you try. Sometimes our best efforts are not good enough. And I believe in a higher being. I know that it's one of the things they use sometimes to put us either in the right place or to put our success in context. It is one of those things that are part and parcel of life.
What's your measure of success?
I have no standard, Brian. It comes down to what I want to achieve when, and my definition of that thing then. It can be from as small as coming 5 minutes earlier to my desk, or smiling at many people if everyone thinks I'm uptight and complicated, or planting a tree, or really it is diverse. It comes down to what's important to me at a particular season in my life.
Right.
I've had to redefine success so many times in my life, and I believe we all do that, consciously or unconsciously.
I have set up all my things, things are going well. Yes, one or two goals, I failed to achieve. When do I know katibanange biganye? What are those moments?
Apart from the usual KPIs that we put down, like somebody was talking about goal setting, I think we are connected to our dreams. There is that inner radar that keeps beeping, either to excite you or to remind you when you're phasing out.
Right.
I think keep in touch with your true north. It's the only way to know that you're on course.
Right.
Some of the biggest dreams don't excite, and the smallest ones keep you awake at night. You're like, damn, I have to do this.
I am working on a very big dream, and I just comes once and I'm like, hey, but pause, I have to do this. Then the unnecessary ones are always keeping me on my toes. I'm like,
connect with your true north.
Right.
Dreams are usually inside, not outside.
Awesome. We are with Mariam Igana Nsamba. Pause Nsamba Ngavi. Who went to medical school, law school, and business school. Wow. She did all this. She went to law school just to check out, what is this law?
What are these posers?
What are these posers, these liars? What are they about? And she has literally tested failure. And she's here with us sharing, most importantly, about failing forward. Your comments or suggestions on Twitter and Facebook and the SMS. You have a real story of failure.
Yes, I do.
One or two nuggets of advice you leave for our viewers that are watching us right now.
1, failure is not final. It's neither final nor fatal. Don't kill yourself. Don't go bury yourself in a corner whenever you fail. And then 2, you're never a failure. You fail at something. Do not own failure. It's not yours.
Right.
You fail at something, but it doesn't make you a failure. So redefine failure in terms of what you failed at, not who you are. So failure is neither final nor fatal, and then get a new definition of failure. Say I failed at maths, not I'm a failure. Say I failed at cooking, I failed at house decor, I failed at business, but don't define your entire, because you're much more than that one thing.
I failed at being an awesome mother, but I'm a good person.
Yes, it doesn't make you a bad person, or a bad friend, or a bad sister, or a bad daughter. Get a new definition of failure, a personal definition of failure.
You know what? You've nailed it.
Thank you.
You've nailed it. And if you're at home and you're getting it right now, and what they always tell us, you know, like in relationships, don't attack your partner, attack the problem.
Yes, sir.
Put the problem in the corner and say, we are going to talk about your procrastination, not you.
The lazy man or
the lazy man.
Yes.
Yes, and then
put your failure in perspective.
Awesome. Miriam, thank you. And we'll definitely call you back. Is there a failing sideways?
No.
We've been talking about failing forward, and you can find Miriam also at the Excellence Center.
Yes, you can.
Right, and we'll be sharing her contacts with you on our Facebook page. You can also ask her questions there, and she'll get onto the Facebook page. Humphrey is also going to get onto the Facebook page and answer those questions that you asked last week. And I'm telling you, we are trying to make you a better person this morning. I hope you have got some tidbits of advice there. Isma standing by. Good morning, Isma.
Good morning. And as you've already heard, there is Chelsea who are hosting Didier Drogba tonight in the UEFA Champions League. But there is a very, very big event in New York, as the New York Knicks, one of the richest clubs in basketball, do unveil Phil Jackson today as their president. I'll also be telling you about the Rugby Cranes, who have unveiled a squad, and the retirement of Rivaldo. There is no reason why you should walk out from morning at NTV.
Well, it's only 15 minutes on to 9 o'clock. We'll be right back with a sports update with Mabel, Isma, and I. Good morning.
Everyday Life was brought to you by...
And we are HTC.
She was molested when she was 6 by someone she trusted.
The doctors finally walked into the door. They basically were telling me that she had a 5% chance of living.
I couldn't understand how somebody that tells you they loved you, that held you as a child, could abuse you.
Tommy Scott grew up among gang violence, drugs, and poverty in the projects of South Central Los Angeles.
I felt not normal, not good. I wasn't lovable.
As a teen, Melissa discovered that drinking gave some relief.
Tommy is free today and continues to tell people that it was Jesus who changed his life.
The time I spent in prison, I spent putting my ideas together on, how I was going to come back and make it all right.
And I realized my purpose, that I was created to reflect the glory of God.
Duke now realizes why God kept him alive.
These were real people facing desperate situations, just like you and me.
Jesus died to set you free, and he can give you a new heart.
I was going to my hall, someone came from my back and was
how?
I
went to the nurse and asked why is it that our father is negative and for us we are positive?
Every time I find a story of assault of one person to another, I get disturbed.
Mwayombye ekiro lwaleeta suze ole bakookeza nazeepoza kimu nti mujja wange yanjokeza
kino ekyafa kino kyali kyakulira muno mu lubuto.
The Irene I know just loves music and loves to sing. I've never seen her even smoke a cigarette.
The days of legal trade in slaves are history, following its abolition in the 1800s.
They tie you like this. That's when I started getting past.
Everybody has a story, but yours will only become our story when you share it.
Mr. Krabs. Are you ready to party?
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it, move it.
Wow! Hello, fellow motor enthusiastics.
Oh, Mr. Krabs, isn't there any way for us to return all of them back to normal?
Hey! How'd he do that? The Red Ranger's a bigger problem than I thought!
It's time to finish this thing up!
What can I do to make them love me again?
What are you drawing, Kitty?
Mega Rangers? That's a mega win!
Hello? King Julian, you are truly inspiring. Ow! SpongeBob!
Fantastic!
Running out of airtime can happen to anyone. The next time you recharge, simply dial *161# to get going again.
On the next episode of La Patrona.
Yes, I'm the man and the owner of this house. I provide for you, for my daughters. Go be with Shakan. Let him take care of you. Go on, go. Go to the dollhouse. Let's see if they take you in, you old worn-out hag.
Boy, you can say things too, and you think that I don't think or feel. Come on. And don't give me your excuse that you're after revenge because your attitude gives you away. It's the attitude of a woman who's been hurt. A jealous woman.
Her perfume smelled awfully familiar to me. She was trembling all over. When I touched her, she was shaking.
What, with passion?
No. It was fear.
La Patrona.
At Orange, we know that running out of airtime can happen to anyone. That's why we bring you Wetase. Simply dial *161# to get going again. Convenience changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
Exactly 10 minutes on to 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us. Before the break, we are with Mariam Igana Nsamba, who was talking about failing forward. Instead of failing backwards, you need to, fail forward. Don't say I'm a failure at this, but say, I failed at this, and you work on that.
So can I ask about Moyes? Is it good that he failed now? Because if he had just taken Man United to the top, it would have gotten to his head.
Not Moyes is not a failure. He obviously produced some of the finest players,
At Everton?
Yes, at Everton. And I think he's good with small teams. Is he
failing forward or is just failing?
Okay, now I may get a backlash from Man U fans, and they may stop watching this show, but he's about to get there.
He's about.
Well, this morning, and my director who supports Man U is threatening me to switch me off. But let me now focus. No more Man U talk. All right. The provisional squad for the 2014 Rugby Cranes engagements has come out.
Yeah.
How much of a radical shift do we see? Any surprises in the squad?
First of all, I think it's the first time since Uganda won the Africa Cup in 2007 in Madagascar that there is no member from that team that won the Africa Cup. So for me, radical shift, I'd call it a fundamental change in the way the Rugby Cranes will appear over the next few years.
Isn't that going to...
Yeah, it's something that many people have cried for within the rugby circles, that the players, most of them have aged. And I saw in newspaper headlines saying Robert Seguia, Ronald Adigas, and Alex Mubiru were not in the team. And for me, that was only a small part of whatever was happening. The coach, Peter Magona, has opted to go with totally new young players, Joseph Aredo, Justin Kimono, the young generation, Kevin McMahon, Davis Chiwalavye. Because one of the things that Uganda Rugby Union is doing is that they've opted out of the qualifiers for the 2015 World Cup. They have to be very realistic because the World Cup qualifier is next year. And knowing how the traditional team performed poorly last year, especially in that Africa Cup semi-final in Madagascar when they lost to Kenya by a margin exceeding 40 points. Now they are trying to rebuild the team by finding a totally new mindset, finding younger players who have been together, most of them part of the Ugandan team that did well the under-19 rugby world, Africa Cup back in 2009. So they are trying to put up a new team totally, as they shelve the idea of playing the 2015 Rugby World Cup qualifiers and only focus on the 2019 Rugby World Cup qualifiers. So they're able to choose only players who will be there in 5 years, and not the players who won't be there in 5 years' time. Knowing that they won't play. So for me, the most unfortunate thing about this, that I would have loved to see a farewell game for Robert Seguya. For me, arguably the greatest rugby player, the most dedicated player this game has seen in this country. He's been on this team for a little about 15 years. He's played and coached and started rugby in all schools. I'd love to see him given just one more shot at for the national team, just as a form of fair.
Like football, for example, you know, people like what's his name? The Italian guy, the captain. No. Yes, the captain.
Yeah, Fabio Cannavaro.
No.
The current one?
Former captain.
Which former captain? There was Fabio Cannavaro when they won the World Cup.
The left back.
The left back. Italy?
Yes, Italy. Come on now.
My mind.
Come on now. That guy was always
Paolo Maldini.
Maldini was always in every squad.
My apologies. In his later life, he was a centre back.
Yes. Okay. He was always in every squad. Yeah. And even 5 years from now, won't we need some of these guys? Won't they be good for the younger guys? Some experience.
Probably in 5 years they won't be there. And for me, I'm making a passionate outcry as a fan of Robert Seguya. I've seen him play for Uganda with a broken shoulder, with a broken hand, with a broken leg. And he's come back all those times and performed for Uganda. And I've always thought that there's got to be a send-off. And I remember just about 2 years ago, when the English counties were visiting this country, they gave Alan Musoke a send-off in that game. Yeah. Probably Seguya deserves the same. He probably doesn't deserve, all these players don't deserve the treatment where you get rid of him without some kind of game where it's only a communication via email that the national team is this and Seguya is not on it. Like you say, I think it's a culture in the West that people have done well for their countries. They appreciate the way Paolo Maldini was after being the most capped player for Italy. Of course, he's eventually been overtaken by Vince. Now Gianluigi Buffon is the most capped player for Italy. So I have a feeling that this is something that should have been the same way you talk about Maldini. The same way every great player for me deserves a send-off, regardless of where you're looking, left or right, whether socialist or capitalist. Great players deserve a send-off.
Well, their rugby, of course, being powered by NTV, will be showing you some of the live games. We're in partnership with the Uganda Rugby Union, and we've fine-tuned it to about $1 billion shillings. Oh, good on us.
So when Uganda is playing against Kenya,
we'll be telecasting live.
Those games will be on TV.
They'll be on NTV. Yes.
Well, the New York Knicks are to unveil 11-time NBA championship coach Phil Jackson. What do we expect from him? What can we...
the most successful coach in the history of the NBA, first of all. You don't win 11 titles unless you're as good as Phil Jackson. 5 of them with Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, and then the other 5 with Kobe Bryant and the LA Lakers. For all that success, probably for me, this is the biggest challenge.
He's a Ferguson of sorts.
Yeah, he's the Ferguson of the NBA. But this is the biggest challenge Phil Jackson has taken, because he's joining a team that has no idea what winning is. Last year when they got to the playoffs, they only got to the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. This is a team that, for all the money that they generate, New York Knicks, at the start of the year have 8 million subscribers on cable television who pay money to watch every game. Their ticket prices are the highest. To go to the Madison Square Garden is the highest ticket in the NBA. It's called the make of basketball, but they don't win anything. Now, for all the success that Phil Jackson has enjoyed over his time, now being a president of a club that doesn't win, he's going to have to design a plan that makes the general manager, the coach Mike Woodson, and probably keep Carmelo Anthony to build a team that can win. I don't see them winning this year, first of all. Luckily, he has a 5-year contract. But I think after 3 years, Phil Jackson has got to reflect and look back. What did he actually intend to do with the New York Knicks? For me, first of all, one of the things they could do, they keep on changing their roster. And this is one thing that doesn't work most of it for the NBA teams. When Michael Jordan won with the Chicago Bulls, he had to stay there for about 8 years until they got the roster right. When Dirk Nowitzki won with the Dallas Mavericks a few years ago, he had to be with the Dallas for 11 years. Now, can the New York Knicks build a team around a player for the next 10 years? That's going to be the biggest challenge for Phil Jackson, because there is a tendency for the Knicks, when something fails, they quickly change it.
Yes.
They quickly want to change and move on to the next
Quick
one.
fix.
Yeah, there's a quick fix tendency. When the Lakers won in 2000 under Phil Jackson, they are not won for ages. And then they got Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal and won a championship. So the Knicks have to move in that kind of direction.
Right.
Who do they want to build their future on? If it's Carmelo Anthony, I'm for it. Is it the thing they want to do? I highly doubt. When they fail in about 2-3 years, they'll change it. Unless Phil Jackson, as he says, we are sticking with this team.
Right. Well, I played baseball while in school, but I'm also a fan of cricket.
Yeah.
And the ICC 2020 starting, what it has started in Bangladesh, is it crying out for attention? What are we expecting this time around?
First of all, I think it's been lacking in terms of attention, the media, especially in the first week, because the format of the tournament is that the 8 test playing nations, that is England, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, South Africa, West Indies, Australia, they don't get to play at this level. Now, for the first week, there are 8 teams that came in through the qualifiers: Afghanistan, Hong Kong, Nepal, Netherlands, many of them Ireland. So they have to play during the first week, and then the top 2 teams from there will join the other test playing nations from next week. So I think the first week is going to be dull for very many, yet the games have been everything you want to see in a World Cup. I was seeing what Ireland were doing yesterday. I was seeing what Afghanistan did in the opening day against Bangladesh. They are games you'd want to watch.
Right.
But because it's organized in that way, where the first week is basically a scene setter. When they're setting the scene, there's basically no scene to set. And it probably India play Pakistan on Monday. So it's one of those times that while 2020 cricket has gone faster than Test cricket and the one-day internationals, is that 2020 cricket, for all its popularity, this World Cup has, for me, not been done the right way.
They should be able to get the big one up there.
Yeah, to play first.
And it's the Rivaldo.
Okay. Yeah, he's retiring. And how do you think? I remember Rivaldo. I think it was '98 World Cup when the ball hits him and he pretended it had hit him somewhere else. Do you remember Rivaldo?
It's actually 2002.
Oh,
that was in the World Cup semi-final against Turkey. But I won't remember him for that. That was one of the minor things he did, because he feigned injury. They hit him with the ball with the Turkish player. And
on the thigh, and he was like,
he was holding his head, and actually got the opposing player sent off. That's one of the minor things he did.
It's not minor.
I remember Rivaldo.
It's etched in my mind.
There are some iconic things that come with every player. For me, I remember the 2000-2001 when he played Valencia in the Champions League. He scored a hat-trick coming from 2-0 down, and they won that game by 3-2. And then winning the World Cup back in 2002 for Brazil in that final against Germany by 2-0. He was never appreciated because he lived in a generation where there was Ronaldo, Dalima, the real Ronaldo, not people have to call this one Ronaldo China, the real Ronaldo. And then there was another when there was Ronaldinho, so he was never appreciated. He was probably the 3rd or 4th best player for Brazil. But now probably in retirement, people look back at the players who played the game with that natural joy, without the speed, without all this athleticism we see, where there is so much running these days that Rivaldo never had. And for me, he ranks among the greatest Brazilians I've watched play.
Right. Well, tonight is the UEFA Champions League. Chelsea, after a very, bad weekend.
You smile when you say Chelsea had a bad weekend.
Oh, yes. And I'm now confident that Galatasaray will bring the game to them.
I think Galatasaray will bring the game to them because they don't know any other way to play. I think for over the years under Fatih Terim, even if now it's Roberto Mancini is a more cautious manager, they love to play attacking football. And that is one thing Chelsea should be guaranteed, that Galatasaray know only to play in one way, there'll be an attack-minded side.
Right.
But while they go on the attack, they've got to be extremely cautious because Chelsea have the quality. They are the better team if you compare them to Galatasaray. I bank on Chelsea winning this one to go through. The game is already 1-1 from the first leg in Turkey. So I have a feeling that Chelsea will do enough to qualify, regardless of what Galatasaray put on the table. Chelsea should be able to score 1 or 2 and defend and win the game by a goal to 2-0 and get through to the quarterfinals.
Right. Well, tomorrow Ismail will be telling us what happened in the Champions League, but you can catch more of this action later at 1:30 p.m. with him, Lumanse, and Alan. And remember, every Monday 10:30 p.m. Sports bar coming to you live from the club Silk. Let's go for the African proverb before we head out. I like today's African proverb. I think someone just literally translated the Luganda one. Home affairs are not talked about on the public square. Is that the same thing with Yomunju Tebitotolwa?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I remember when you get married, and when you get married, make sure you have all your discussion
in the house.
In the house.
Not out the house.
Right.
Not outside the house.
I've always, I resent anyone, and I do not care what justification you have. Anyone who tells me about what happened in their home. If you got annoyed with your wife, and you come and try and, use those fancy words to express your emotions on social media, we are quite brilliant. We'll figure out that something is going on in your house.
But how come I've never seen pictures of you and your son on Facebook or something?
Public square.
I like that. I don't like the idea.
What about your wife?
She's an adult. She decides if she wants.
No, but do you have pictures of the two of you together?
Maybe I can almost promise you, I can't have a picture of my wife or girlfriend on.
And we agree. We say, should we put this on the public square? Okay. If we don't, we
no. Okay, for me, I can't agree. I'm a dictator on that. We can't even have a discussion.
There's no democracy in your house. And you know what? My son will grow up and decide whether to put himself on Facebook, but I'll not put him there. So yeah, I think I was starting to kutotola some of it. But that is some of your advice today. Take that African proverb with you. And my advice again to all of us who misuse social media to put our, partners attack each other on Facebook. Very, very
insensitive.
Very annoying. That's all we had for you today. What jam-packed show we've had today. And of course, again, reiterating the breaking news that the Uganda police has issued the warnings that Al-Shabaab might be attacking some fuel tankers and stations, and we'll be getting more information on that. But please be vigilant, report any suspicious person or anything to the police. And we're coming to you live from the Kampala Serena Hotel. To all the team in the back, Harriet, director. This guy said I should call him Engineer Andrew, the guy who goes through the tunnels of the Serena, making sure that the signal is sent from the rooftop to you at home in your living room. Wow. Brilliant, guys. Obugaro. Thank you so much, Engineer Andrea. Rionga, bring my coffee. And I'll see you tomorrow. Hasta la vista.
NTV, turning on your world.
Smelling nice and being tough can go together. The freshness of fabric conditioner is now combined with the best ever stain removal of Omo. New Omo, best ever stain removal with fabric conditioner freshness.
Let's rock it!
Kino ky'ekintu kya NTV live nga tujjayo gy'obeera ne tusinziireyo ne tuweereza eggwanga lyonna era kaakano tukkiridde Masaka wiikendi eno okuva nga 2 Maachi 2024 paka Sande nga 23 nga NTV live eri Masaka. Tusooka neyogera naffe ku Lwokuna akawungezi Masaka mu tawuni era tosubwa ate olu ku Friday tukkirire mu ambience okuva ku ssaawa 4:30 tukoone nekona ku NTV nga tuline Miles Lwamiti atolo ku Sande essaawa 4 ez'ekiro bannabyabufuzi bonna mu Masaka bagasimbagane nammwe abantu baabwe ng'amawulire ag'ekiro gaakagwa mu program district edition omukisa guguno naawe obeeko live ku NTV live nga tuli e Masaka oti kino kyebbeeto kya NTV live
etteeka eryo teryetaagisa n'omulundi n'ogumu.
Aro, give me 5 stress, 3 gonorrhea.
Kale muli wano, you think you've brought campasas omwana yenna asobola okugamba super deep si myaka gyaffe.
I'm like, I like my swag too. So what about it? Then she was like, I also like your accent, that village accent. Now
mwagala mukimbimbiri wana kuza kele chiri kyanu chiri okay wale nsanyufu weneka political tayakana nomuzanga nakajjawa
kati nekambuuza mukabete why are you crying? Nekagamba abasajja engeri gye bafulumiza mu lukwago.
I think I'm Big Mitch. Larry Hoover. Put that in Kiprotich's accent.
I think I'm Big Mitch. Larry Hoover.
At Orange, we know that running out of airtime can happen to anyone. That's why we bring you Wetase, so you can get emergency airtime and make that important call when you have to, and pay back with a small service fee the next time you recharge. Simply dial *161# to get going again. Convenience changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.